Hello, guys, it's Lana, and I'm your host for today. We are having a very important topic, the first day of the war, and our personal experience during that day.
Hello, my name is Vlad. I'm a co-host, and we would like to discuss what happened on February 24th, 2022, our thoughts, feelings before that, during that day.
I guess let's start. So, Vlad, when was the first time you actually found out something horrible was going to happen?
So this is a difficult question. If you're a fan of Ukrainian history, I'm sure you've heard of a lot of tension happening between Ukraine and Russia. So if you really dig deep, you could go to like the 19th century, the 18th century, but let's not do that today. So I guess the first open act of aggression, we can say, was in 2014. You'd think that after that, it was possible that a second act of this aggression is possible. I don't think many people really believed that. I personally did not believe. The attack from Russia was inevitable, that it was bound to happen. I did not believe that. I guess coming to the closer to the 2022, the biggest red flag, as we say, was, I guess, when Putin moved his forces to Donetsk, Luhansk. Many people said that after that, the logical step would be to attack further, right? To attack Kyiv and other major cities, Kharkiv, Odessa, etc. I did not believe that until the end. I vividly remember my feelings, my thoughts in February 2022. At the time, I was living in Kyiv and I was working as a barista in a local coffee shop. And I remember that as the days went by, as we were getting closer to February 24th, the tension just kept rising. I remember the talks on the streets, like it was the biggest topic. I don't know if you can relate, Alana, but in Kyiv, it was like everything that people talked about. I discussed this topic with my coworkers in the coffee shop all day. I heard the discussions in the shops, in malls, on the streets. Like the city was buzzing with, I guess, with anxiety or fear of this. But for some reason, I think maybe it was like a psychological mechanism that was trying to protect my well-being mentally. I was saying, no, that's not possible. It's not going to happen. I don't think that Putin is absolutely insane. I think he is more rational. He would not do that because he will definitely suffer severe consequences after, even if he achieves some success on the field. I mean, even if he takes a couple of cities, what is he going to do next? The Ukrainians are not going to give up. He's just going to get a bunch of problems. So I did not believe it would happen. Yeah, I just said no. That's impossible. The possibility of war is zero. I was thinking this until the 24th. On the 23rd,
Until the 24th.
yes, on
Okay.
23rd, we were discussing this again with my coworker, and we were talking about, I had been reading at the time a lot of those Western analytics. You know, they were saying Ukraine
Yeah.
has no chance, Ukraine will fall in 3 days. And I thought, okay, I guess these guys know what they're talking about, right? They're getting their paychecks for talking about important things. I guess they are the experts. So I believed, yes, I guess if it's going to happen, then Ukraine will probably lose quickly. But I thought, but it's not going to happen. Come on, it's impossible. So I guess my initial thought and feeling was just rejection of the idea.
Did you still try to prepare somehow? Like maybe you packed your emergency backpack?
I packed absolutely nothing. So people were discussing, like, I guess it was called something like a suitcase, like a war suitcase. I remember there was a
Yeah,
phrase.
I think it was called like an emergency suitcase,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And people were talking about it. I said, okay, maybe that's a good idea. So I thought, yeah, good for you guys, but come on, this is no, I'm not doing that.
Could you say that the perspective of people from KU was absolutely different from yours?
I guess there were a lot of non-believers like me. My coworker that I've discussed it was actually very, he wasn't convinced, but he thought it was going to happen. And I was trying to convince him that not like that. Some people did believe, some people didn't.
I actually firstly heard that something was going to happen on 12th of February. Before that, I had absolutely no clue that something was wrong. I remember on the 12th of February, I met my friend to watch a national contest of Ukraine for Eurovision. We sat in the kitchen and my friend goes, so are you prepared? Like, what do you think about all that? I'm so anxious. Did you pack like this emergency suitcase? And I was like, what? I had absolutely no clue. I think maybe because I was so overwhelmed with studying in a medical university that I absolutely did not pay attention to what was going on in politics at all. And she told me like, oh, and she actually worked for the news website, and she read a lot of the articles of her coworkers about the topic and the problem. And she was like, like something bad can happen, and my coworker is strongly sure that the full-scale invasion could happen, or like the war could happen, stuff like that. And I could not believe her. I actually laughed at her, and I told her that he was crazy, because it sounded so surrealistic for me, because back in the day the war was so abstract, like from another world. The next day I was going home and I was passing through my village, and it was so sunny, and everybody was working outside. There were dogs barking, and the whole village looked so peaceful. And I remember looking at that and imagining it being demolished. I couldn't actually perceive that, but it felt really bad even imagining it. And then I came home, talked to my father, and he actually told me that, we have all the reasons to be concerned. After I talked to him, because he was really into politics, he knew all about that. And after that talk, I felt like everything like faded in its colors for real, like, and everything was not the same. After that, every day I kept thinking, I kept being awake in the middle of the night, anxious, and trying to talk to my friends, trying to be comforted by them, and trying to find solutions. Actually packing my backpack, my emergency backpack. It was not an emergency suitcase, it was an emergency backpack. And the fun thing that I packed really weird stuff. I packed a raincoat, I packed an axe, I packed a knife, a metal cup, because for me, like the war, it's silly, but I pictured that like running through the woods and trying to survive. So
Actually, yeah, that's similar to what I was imagining too. So it's not that silly. Some people, I took my ukulele with me. I remember, like if I was to pack this emergency backpack or suitcase, I would definitely put my ukulele, which is just dumb. So you packing your axe, knife, and cup and a raincoat. Actually, I think that's pretty considerate of you.
Yeah, I just after I talked to my friends and found out about their backpacks or suitcases, emergency suitcases, there were mostly things to move out of the country, like to actually like get in the car and maybe go somewhere abroad. Those were not things to actually survive somewhere in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, that's how I imagined war. I even remember I found a very old article online. I even believe that it was actually Russian. It was the guideline of how to dodge the missiles and survive the air attack. I was like reading which walls should you hide behind, how to in a fast way, actually recognize the good building so you can actually stand behind it and rely on it. And I was imagining like running in like in between the missiles and craters. It's just absolutely chaotic in my mind how the war would look like, and I had absolutely no right vision of it. And actually, I remember I was crying once talking to my best friend, and I was like, can't imagine like some other people killing my family, killing our people, like destroying places. And he was like, Ruslana, like that's absolutely like silly of you, because like, do you really believe that somebody would waste really expensive weapons? Like, he told me, even if the war was about to happen, there's going to be attacks on like power plants or some military plants or like soldiers, whatever, but not civilians, not just regular people. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And that's sad. I mean, I wish he was actually right about that. I wish it would be as that reasonable. So yeah, and I also believe that there was a lot of confusion in getting the data, getting the right information about whether it actually would start or not, because we had all that information from abroad, analytics, foreign analytics, that like tonight the full-scale invasion is going to happen. And we had it like the same for a couple of times. You sleep at night, nothing happens. You wake up, you think, well, that was And then it happens a couple of times again. So the exact night when it actually happened, I remember I didn't care. I knew that it could happen, and I knew that it was 4 a.m. that it could happen. And I actually stayed awake till 2 a.m. because I was just watching Cowboy Bebop, and I was just relaxing. And I actually set my alarm just to wake up, check whether there is a war, and then go to sleep. And I remember I woke up at 4 a.m. and I half asleep actually, like looked at my Telegram, like scrolled, there was nothing. It's like, okay, fine. And I fell asleep, but then I had to wake up in an hour, actually, after my friend called me and told me, like, Lana, we are maybe I was even overthinking and exaggerating and like too worried and too stressed. If we compare my friends to this state of mind, everybody else was like, it has no sense. It will never happen. That's 21st century. What are you even thinking? Like everything's going to be fine. It has absolutely no sense. Like Russia will never actually benefit from doing something like that. There are going to be a lot of consequences, as you said, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Also, I just wanted to say about those false alarms from America when they said it was going to happen that day or that day.
Mm,
I think it really calmed people in a way
right.
because it didn't happen 2 times already, so it's not going to happen again, right?
Yeah.
So those false alarms worked kind of against us.
That is true. I also remember that. So that's a fun fact too. When I was 14, I had an online friend from Russia, and we communicated quite a lot. And his father was a military pilot, and he had recently started working in FSB, in the Department of Internal Intelligence. And by 2022, we actually hadn't spoken in 3 years or so. But I texted him because I knew that he was always willing to keep in touch. So I texted him being like, I know you know everything. So should I be worried? Should I be concerned? And he actually told me that their forces were gathering near our borders just for a show, just to create the tension and pressure Ukraine into giving up our territories, because the whole thing that was going on was about claiming LNR and DNR, like so-called DNR and LNR independency from Ukraine. So he said that it was all just to pressure Ukraine into giving up the territories. And he said that those soldiers that actually were living next to our borders all those days. They hadn't received any orders to fight, and most of them believed, and they actually that was what they were told about, that it was just trainings.
Mhm.
And he said it would be returning soon, so I had nothing to worry about. And if I look back, I'm not sure that I can say that he was a bastard and he lied to me, actually, because if you research and you try to get the information from those Russian soldiers that were captured, from what they said, they truly believed that those were just trainings and they were not prepared, and they didn't expect that they were about to fight. And they also, we saw the same in the intercepted phone calls from Russian soldiers on that day, that they didn't know what to do.
And also some sources told, like the journalists, that even the highest authorities in Russia didn't know about it.
When I look back at the 15th of February, that was, I guess, the first time that international websites warned us about the possible invasion, and everybody was freaked out. And I remember Zelensky's speech, and he actually declared February 16th a national holiday, the day of unity. And everybody the next day, I remember his words so clearly, that you have nothing to worry about. The next day we wake up, we go to work after that, or actually not go to work, and just go to celebrate the day of unity. We will celebrate our culture. We will be proud of who we are. We will enjoy the day, and everything will be just perfect. I think that for the background, for those feelings and perspectives before the war, I guess that's it, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I think we could slowly move on to the day. to the February 24th?
Sure. So as I already mentioned, I was not prepared, and I quite didn't believe that the full-scale invasion would happen. I stayed awake till 2 a.m. Actually, the next day would be the first day of our in-person studying in my university, because till that day, we had been studying online because of COVID. So I was even quite excited, and I was more focused on the next day going to the university than on the night itself. As I said, I just casually turned on the alarm to check, and nothing happened. I woke up in an hour after that because of the call from my friend, and I woke up just automatically. I don't even remember that I had any like thoughts, any feelings. He said that I kind of like just perceived it, and I got up. I grabbed my backpack, and he lived in the same dorm with me. So I just went to his room. I remember walking in the corridor, and I remember the lights turning on in different rooms slowly. And I just entered the room, and I sat on the bed, not saying absolutely nothing. And he also kept silence. We didn't even know what to say. Like, I remember I sat on the bed and stared at him, like no words, nothing. He was like, okay, let's watch the video, the speech, the main speech where Putin actually declares war. So we started watching it. We got to the main part of it, and then it was interrupted by the air alarm, by the siren, and it was something that you definitely cannot prepare to, because it sounds absolutely like terrifying, and because it's made to terrify people and bring the panic up, so you do something, so you don't sit on the same place. The first thought was, what should I do? Like, I remember I was standing in front of the window, and the sky was so pink. The sky was actually beautiful, but we heard the sounds of the helicopters, I guess, and that air alarm and that siren, and you have no idea what to do. The also maybe something that made us even more confused, that we lived in the dorm, so there was no TV, no radio, nothing like that, like YouTube only, but there was nothing on YouTube. So like no one to tell you what to do. So there was the thing that we actually thought would be good, was to withdraw some cash, because everybody had all their money on their cards. So we didn't have any cash. So it was the first thing we would do. It was 5 a.m. And I actually didn't go to withdraw it myself, because my friend was going to do that with his friends. So I just was waiting for him, and I remember him sending me some messages, like showing me the line. The line was absolutely insane. He had to stand in it for an hour to actually get to the ATM. And I was trying to call my parents, and I think that was the hardest part of all the day. Keep trying and trying and trying. No, nothing, no response, no. That was because they didn't have signal, I guess. There were attacks the signal towers for some reason, and there was no option, no chance to actually call to your loved ones, and they lived in Cherkasy region, in Zvenegorodka. So I was really worried. And also the funny thing again, that I remember before 8 a.m. or before 9 a.m., after my friend came back, we actually gathered in our other friend's room. He turned on the music, and we just listened to the music, like just being absolutely bewildered altogether. And it was also a bit uniting. But I remember I was sitting there, like trying to make up my mind, and then I received a notification that from my teacher, and there was like, "Where are you? Where are you all?" And we had to join the class. We had to, and I thought, okay, like what? Okay, I thought that, all right, we are joining the class, but probably we are doing that in order so she makes sure that everything's fine with us, and maybe also like tells us what to do, where to go, whatever. But no, it was actually a regular lesson. She was like, okay, guys, so today we are talking about, I think it was about liver, some
That's
changes in liver.
insane. That's
Yeah.
insane.
And I remember I was looking at all my group mates, and I have group mates from different parts of Ukraine, and my friends from Kherson. I had my friends from Chernihiv. It was really, really close to Russia, and they were like sitting like, what is going on? After that, when we were done with our lesson, I remember my friends decided to get to the drafting center to get weapons, because something that we all believed was as also because of that influence from abroad and that analytics that Ukraine would fall, and we really believed that tomorrow morning or even tonight there would be tanks in the city and Russians fighting, shooting and stuff. So they were like, okay, we need to find weapons. So we went to the drafting center, and something that impressed me a lot was huge lines to drafting centers. It showed me that people were trying their best. They were ready to protect. They were ready to fight. It was something impressive. It was something that also gave me some little bit of peace. But I also remember walking through the city and this thought that that could be the last day of me walking through this city peacefully and with no Russians around and no deaths, no corpse, no blood. But yeah, when we got there, actually, people told us, as again, we stayed there for a couple of hours, and it got dark actually after that. And the guys told us that we would be much more useful in medical fields, trying to help people as we were medics. So he said that we do not need any more people here, and honestly, like you don't have to worry about that. Go and serve in the medical field instead. So we went back. We also signed up for a voluntary activity of crafting Molotov cocktails. And we just sat in the room, kind of trying to get distracted, talking to each other. By the way, I think that in the middle of the day, I finally was able to get to my parents. So like the huge burden fell out of my shoulders, and it felt much more relaxing. Even though that it was hard to listen to my mom crying and being scared, but at least they were alive, and there were no active attacks on the place where they lived. Yeah, we just sat in the room till the end. So I actually realized that we hadn't been eating for almost like I guess 20 hours, and we were really hungry and sleepy and all that. But we actually turned on Ukrainian songs and we ate Volodya's, my friend's mom's food, and it felt like home. But yeah, I think that being together with friends helped a lot, because even when you are scared and lost, if you see people who are the same scared and lost, you don't feel that lonely, and you feel like, we will figure something out. Again, something that also brought up a lot of let's say hope was that our president didn't leave the country. He didn't evacuate. And when I actually saw that at the same evening, the same night, he posted like the little video of him staying in Kyiv, and that shows you, okay, if he is staying in Kyiv, that probably everything could be all right. If not, then we would die altogether. So yes, and we just went to sleep trying to actually take turns sleeping, because also the thing that the first day we didn't have any clue about how the air alarm worked. We actually thought that there was danger from the sky only when the air alarm was actually lasting, and then when it turned off, we thought that okay, it's done, there is no air alarm. But it was definitely not like that, and we felt a little bit more secure, I guess, the all day long, because there were no sirens anymore. But still, we didn't know that it didn't mean that we were safe. Also, we checked a couple of shelters that were around our dorm. They were not really close, like in just 10 minutes of walking, but better than nothing. And we saw that they were in a very bad condition, but better than nothing, as I said. And yeah, we just fell asleep, hoping, being absolutely terrified by the idea that we could hear the siren in the middle of the night. We just really wanted to actually get some sleep, as we didn't have any idea of how the things would be in the next day. So we had some energy, some resources maybe to fight. But the thing that we actually didn't think, I don't remember me thinking about that even for a minute, was to actually flee, to actually go abroad. Not at all. I definitely knew that I would stay and I would do everything possible.
Yeah, that's curious, because I thought, given the fact that Lviv is relatively close to the border, maybe it would be reasonable for some people to at least be more open to the idea of fleeing, because it's just, how many kilometers is it to the border? Like 100, 200 kilometers?
Actually, 1 hour of driving.
1 hour of driving, exactly. So it sounds so easy, right? You just take a car and you go there and you are safe.
Yeah, that's
However,
true.
Lviv, I guess, um, has maybe it's a stereotype, maybe it's true, but the citizens of this city and of the Western Ukraine, I think, are more inclined to fight for the independence, for their
That's true, yeah.
nation, for their language, for their culture. So maybe that's why it was not a trend to leave, even though it was easy, relatively easy.
Yeah, maybe even though I actually saw a lot of shops being closed, everything was closed and it looked abandoned. So I guess a lot of people did leave. But definitely, actually, yeah, I guess a lot of people did leave because before we got a lot of refugees from other parts of Ukraine, Lviv felt a bit like empty. Could be also because no one actually like walked around and had fun and enjoyed the outside being outside. By the way, I also remember so the first days, that's the topic for another podcast, I guess, but the first days, of course, like restaurants and everything that was connected to entertainment was completely closed. And I remember I was walking home after the shop, after the grocery shop, and the girl was walking in front of me and she was like, so I don't understand, like, why can't I just go to the restaurant? Like, what? Why? I have rights. And I was like, okay, that's funny. What about your experience?
Yeah, what you told really brought back memories for sure, and the feels as well. I kind of forgot about it, maybe after some time, but these things really resurfaced now. Yeah, so as I've told you before, mm, in February I was in Kyiv, and it's interesting that you said that the 24th was supposed to be kind of a big day for you, right? Because it was kind of the same for me, because the place that I was working at, the coffee shop, I'd only worked there for like a month or two, I think. And the 24th was supposed to be like the test of my skills. I was supposed to show that I am able to make all of the drinks at the espresso machine. 23rd, I was preparing for that. I actually, I think I have a video on my phone where I'm filming the process of making some of the drinks, and I was really focused on passing the test, because maybe that would mean that maybe I would get a raise. Yeah, so it was a big day for me as well because it was supposed to be the test. I didn't think it was going to happen. I just went home after discussing all of this with my coworkers. I just went home. I just went to sleep like at 10 p.m., which is quite early for me because I started to work at like 8, so I needed to get up at like 6. So I had to go to sleep at 10. And I just calmly, like reasonably calmly, just went to sleep because I didn't think the war would happen. What woke me up was my cousin, my sister. She called me and she said, "The war has started. Wake up. The war has started. Wake up." That's like the quote. And I was like, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, she's panicking, right? Come on, war. Yeah, right. We're in 21st century, as you said. War. Yeah, I guess maybe there is some fighting in Donetsk, like it was from the 2014s. Maybe there are some like local small fights there. And I decided to check Telegram. I was subscribed to some of the news channels there, Ukrainian and Russian. And unfortunately, both of the sides were actually saying that the war has really started. So, like the headlines were like that: the war has started. And I got it. Okay, I guess it's real. I guess my sister was not panicking. And I need to do something. Like my first initial response was to act. I remember I was focused and concentrated like never before, because when I wake up at 5 a.m., I'm not focused. I'm anything but focused usually. However, at the time, I felt really in the moment, and I had like so much clarity in my mind, and I actually started making like a plan of what to do. So what I did first was packed my backpack. Um, I just took some warm clothes, like extra battery for my phone or something. So like necessary stuff and my ukulele. I don't know why. I guess it was just I just wanted it. Like maybe I romanticized the world, imagining in my head that we would be sitting with the partisans. I already imagined me being a part of um, the forces that try to repel the invaders, and we would be sitting around the campfire, and I would be singing songs like it was not a guitar, it was a ukulele, but still, I don't know why, but I took it as well. And the next step was to also withdraw some money, as you said. Apparently, I was faster than you because when I arrived, so again, it was like 5 a.m., and I spent like 10 minutes packing my stuff. And after that, I left the stuff in the apartment. I was actually considering taking it with me as well, like if I needed to flee immediately. But I thought, no, come on, I will have time to get to the ATM and back because it was like a 7-minute walk. So I went there and I was like the third person at the ATM. So basically,
Mhm.
there was no line whatsoever. However, the guy in front of me apparently had some issue with his card where he could only withdraw like 1,000 hryvnias at a time. And he had like 50,000 hryvnias at a time. So he would insert the card, type his PIN code, he would withdraw 1,000, and then he would take it back, and then he would repeat the process. And that was annoying. And
Of
I
course.
looked back, and quite a huge line was forming behind us. Like 10 people first, 20. Third time I looked back, yeah, it was like 100 people behind me. And people started being angry at the guy. They said, "What the hell are you doing, brother? There's like 100 people, all of them need money, and you're doing this stuff with the card. This is like, what are you doing?" So I guess the societal pressure kind of worked. So he finished doing that. I quickly took my money. For me, it took like 30 seconds to withdraw everything. Um, and I went home. And yeah, I'm glad that I was quick to do it, because if I was the hundreds, like those people at the end of the line, maybe I wouldn't be able to withdraw the money. As I will tell you later, this money was really useful that day. Yeah, and also when I was standing in the line, I also texted our manager at the coffee shop and asked for the salary. Uh,
Dayo?
no, no, for salary,
Oh,
like ahead of time. It was not the time to receive it, but like we were supposed to receive it like on the 28th or something. But I texted her and she said, yes, sure, we will pay everyone. She was actually super sweet. And she was actually working because some people would just abandon everything and go with their families. Um, but she didn't. She actually worked. She actually sent out the money. Not everything. She paid me like half, but still, it was great. And I actually withdrew that money as well, that she sent me. So that was nice. And then I went back, and I guess most people had already woken up. And when I was walking through cave, it felt like a scene from a post-apocalyptic movie or a game. It also felt, you feel this like distance, like you're walking but it's not you, like you don't control your body. It's like a third person view. So I was like walking and smiling. I remember smiling. I don't know why. That was like because people were like ants around me. They were all running. They were opening their cars like and throwing stuff in it. Trying to leave as quickly. They were shouting. I remember two cleaning ladies. They were sweeping the street, and they were like, "So the war started, yeah, yeah, yes, Emmanuel, yeah, it started. Oh, these Russians, God damn them." They were like the only calm people in the city, I think.
that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, I just remember that episode. And I also remember the sound of explosion. It was loud. I guess it was Boryspil or some other airport near Kyiv. So that was that was something for sure. I heard it, and even some cars started beeping, because of the sound waves.
Wait, did you stop smiling at that point?
Like for a second, but then I think I smiled even wider. I don't know why. It's like I was daring, There was this fire inside of me that kept, okay, well, try it. Like, what you gonna do, huh? Sorry, you can beep that. Yeah, so I was super energized. I was super motivated, and also while I was standing in the line, I was thinking of joining the armed forces of Ukraine. It was a bit complicated for me, as you know, because I had and still have the Russian passport. I guess this is a big surprise, maybe, but I did. I was and still am a citizen of Russia, unfortunately. So it was going to be a difficult time to join Ukrainian armed forces, not having the Ukrainian passport, but rather having the passport of your enemy. But I thought, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm not going to get any passport. I think I was looking around and I saw chaos everywhere. So I thought, I guess the same thing is happening in these centers, like territorial defense centers. I guess who would ask for a passport? They would look at me like a young guy wanted to fight. I think I thought, okay, they will give me this
And
Kalashnikov
you
or something, and they will not ask for any documentation whatsoever. So that was my plan. Well, not plan, but at least I was definitely considering doing that after receiving the money. And then I received some texts. So I had two sisters actually living in Kyiv, two cousins. One of them woke me up, and the second one also lived there. And they were asking me, "Where are you? What are you doing?" And I actually told them that I'm considering doing that, joining territorial defense, and they went just crazy. What are you doing? No, why are you doing this? This is absolutely insane. And that didn't convince me. But what changed my mind was the thought that if I right now go and do that, who is going to take care of them, of these two girls? They are around my age, but I felt like I had a responsibility um, over them to at least get them to safety, maybe, because Kyiv was not safe. I was sure that well, it was going to be the center of attack, or at least one of the centers. So it's probably the least safe place, the most dangerous place for them to be. So what I decided was to meet them, to leave the city together, to like escort them to safety. And then maybe I would go back, and then maybe I would join the territorial defense or something, or I would figure out what to do next. Yeah, so that's what I did. Sorry, so then I went home. I gathered my stuff, and I went to, I think it's called Ipodrom. It's one of the metro stations in Kyiv, and like the bus station is also located there. None of us had our personal car, a vehicle, so we just thought maybe we would get a bus, marshrutka or something out of the city. We hoped, at least. We went actually to some other metro station, but there was no buses whatsoever. Then we went to Hippodrome, I think, and somehow we found one guy. It was actually a marshrutka, like a very small bus, and it was already quickly filling with people because people were just arriving from everywhere and trying to get into the bus. And we successfully did also. I also remember laughing at my sisters a little bit because they also packed their emergency backpacks. Not even. I packed a backpack because I thought, like you did, maybe I will have to go on foot, Maybe I will have to hide from the helicopters and from the planes and go through the woods. And I think it was a reasonable thought, honestly, given all those talks about Russian absolute superiority in air, like many prognosed that they would just crush our air forces in an hour or so. They would crush all of our air defense systems and they would dominate the air, and you would just see helicopters and planes everywhere in Ukraine. So I guess it was a reasonable thought that you would actually have to hide from them, and you would have to be mobile. And for that, a backpack is much more convenient than a suitcase. So that was my thinking. But my cousin did not think about that, and she brought a huge suitcase, like the biggest suitcase I've ever seen. I don't know how she fit that into that marshrutka, into that bus. That was not easy. People were not happy about that. But yeah, somehow we did. She packed it with her clothes. Like 95% of her stuff were clothes, different clothes, not even like winter clothes, not even warm clothes, but also some other. I guess she just threw everything in there from her wardrobe, and they were laughing at my ukulele. I think ukulele is maybe even more practical than like a
Then a
fifth,
dress.
yeah, like a dress or a fifth t-shirt that she packed. But I digress. Yeah, so we somehow got into that bus, and on the way from Kyiv was probably the biggest traffic jam I have ever seen. So this bus was moving, I don't know, at a speed of a basically like we could have walked, and it probably would have been faster, because every but like I don't know, thousands and hundreds of thousands probably of people were trying to leave the city. So the traffic jams were huge, absolutely enormous. But somehow we were slowly moving, and even though the bus was not even in the direction where we were heading to, we wanted to head to Cherkasy Oblast, to a region, and there we would go to a small town called Zvenehorodka, which where I'm from, and Lana as well. So yeah, we were planning to go there and live there with our grandma. Thankfully, my cousin, she called her ex-boyfriend who had a car. He was a taxi driver, I think, in Kyiv. And at the time, again, very fortunately, he was outside of Kyiv. So what we did, we called him, and he went from another city to us, to meet us, and he took us. We just left the bus like in the middle of the street, because there was no point in moving, because it was not moving almost. So we went to him. He picked us up, and yeah, the first stage of our run was complete. We left Kyiv, and we were able to move forward. I remember the big issue for me, and especially for my sisters, was my Russian passport. I felt like it was burning, on my chest. I had it in my jacket, and I felt like, oh my God, I am the enemy, guys. You don't know, but I'm riding with you in this bus, but I am actually Russian. I thought if they found out, they would kill me. They would eat me alive. Um, well, yeah, that was at least momentarily I panicked. My sisters did not help with that. They just were riling me up, and I calmed them down. I said, "Okay, no one is going to check. Come on, no one will be checking." Although there were some checkpoints on the streets, but thankfully we passed them, and we were never stopped even.
You could have just throw it away. You could have just
I was
told them that.
considering, I was considering, tearing it apart. But then the other rational part of my brain said, okay, so you won't have the Russian passport. You do not have the Ukrainian passport. Who are you going to be?
Were the prices for that bus higher than usual than the regular?
Nope, no. The guy just charged the regular fee. And I was very grateful. He didn't raise it 1 cent. He didn't raise it 1 hryvnia. He actually charged the
Yeah,
regular fee. And I remember thinking, wow, what an honorable person, because he could have charged 10 times more and people would pay.
correct, correct.
I remember also reading in some Telegram chats, people were offering their car seats for those who wanted to leave Kyiv for free. Like
Yeah.
it said, we could take your stuff, we could take your pets, like cats, dogs. We have some space in our car. We would take everything. And I remember feeling very patriotic at the time. It was such a moment of strength and unity, I think. We were in the car. The next issue was that the car was running out of gas, and we needed to get it somewhere. And then we discovered, which was a huge issue, at least in the beginning of the war, that there was no gas at the gas stations. You would
Mhm.
just ride past the gas stations, and the signs said no gas, no gas. No, I think we passed like 6 gas stations, and we were beginning to get really worried, because if we drove for another, I don't know, 50 kilometers, the car would just stop. And what would we do then? That was a big question. Fortunately, we found one gas station where we had the gas, they had gas, and the line was enormous. I think there were like 40 cars or something in this line. So we stood in the line hoping that the gas would not run out while we are in the line waiting. Thankfully, that didn't happen. The only problem was that they only accepted cash. I don't know why. Maybe it was the decision of the owner of the gas station, because cash is, I guess, more easy to use, right? Maybe they were concerned about the banking systems because nobody knew if even the banking systems would work, if the cards would work. So they only accepted cash. And that's when I was very proud of myself for doing that, for withdrawing money in the morning, because nobody in the car also thought about doing that. And I paid with my cash, and we got the gas. Oh, I also remembered some crazy person who had like a pickup truck, and this bastard, I will say, he had like 6 canisters or something. So at the time where everybody was, just getting their tank full, this guy refueled his car, and then he started to collect, I don't know, ungodly amounts of gas, which was very needed for everybody. So that was very egotistical of him. And there were also some military. I remember they rode there on some armed, I don't know, some transport. I don't know what that was, but they also got some gas there. They cut the line. That was understandable. Yeah, but thankfully we got the gas, and it was enough to get us to our destination. And we actually got there with no other complications. Yeah, we arrived there and we could finally breathe out. We were safe because I personally thought that small towns would be safe. Nobody would have the resources to attack. Although I remember thinking similar thoughts the day before, that nobody would attack. But still, I convinced myself, and I was trying to convince my family also that it's not going to happen. Nobody would attack our small town. There are no important objects whatsoever. So that did not happen. However, when we heard the air raid sirens, we would go into our cellar. We had
Yeah,
an old, very dangerously unstable, maybe, cellar. So
yeah.
if something would actually blow up near, that cellar would,
It would be your grave.
yeah, it would become our grave. We realized that, I think, the next day, or maybe like 2 days after, and we stopped. Actually, the first person who stopped going down was my grandma. She just couldn't be bothered. She said, "Okay, if they want to blow me up, I will blow up. Okay, you'll go down. I don't care. I'm not leaving my bed. I'm very comfortable here. But you could go. There is some wine." She had some wine in the cellar, which we happily drank. Yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
after that, we stopped. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's my day. We also edited some stories of friends, the people that we asked to share.
In general, I have a positive outlook on life. Most of the time, I try to distance myself from negativity to protect my mental health. It's not about living in a bubble with pink unicorns, but sometimes it's worth focusing on something more positive. I'm from Kharkiv, so I remember that summer then we were still kids, afraid that we might share the fate of Donetsk and Lugansk. Fear and uncertainty had been present since maybe 2013, 2014. I remember that my first reaction was denial, just like many others. No way this can happen, it's the 21st century. I remember the anxiety among my colleagues. I remember how my friend and I laughed at people who started leaving the country a month before the full-scale invasion. I was calm and kept denying everything that was happening, but subconsciously I withdrew cash just a couple of days before it all started. Of course, I wasn't ready. Once again, denying everything, I just continued living and enjoying each day, no matter how unsettling it felt. A week before the full-scale invasion, then people were already growing anxious. My friend and I went bungee jumping from a 30-meter tower at the Metallist Stadium in Kharkiv. I had given her a certificate for it. Later, we ate a dessert with an image of the North Korean leader on it. I remember posting a photo with the caption, "Down with all dictators in the world." On the one hand, it was funny. On the other, a little eerie, especially considering what happened next. I was at my parents' home while my boyfriend was at his. Around 6 a.m., my mom woke me up with the words, "Sweetheart, it has begun." Half asleep, I didn't understand. Maybe she was joking. She has a good sense of humor, but her face told me otherwise. I woke up, and from that moment on, life was divided into before and after. I remember that moment vividly. Endless calls and messages. How are you? Are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. I remember every single person who wrote to me on the first day of the war and whom I reached out to. This is, something you don't forget. There are 3 basic reactions to stress if you generalize, like fight, flight, or freeze. I'm someone who freezes first, assesses the situation, and then decides whether to fight or run. So for the first couple of days, we just stayed at home and waited. In the evening, to keep ourselves occupied, we cleaned the ceilings in the apartment. The scariest thing was, trying to sleep. So it was impossible to sleep, and it was quite terrifying. I remember that time. A lot has changed since then. I'm no longer afraid of explosions. I'm not scared to go back home to Kharkiv. I don't pay attention to sirens anymore, and I don't freeze. I either run or fight. That's probably the most drastic change since the war began. I've learned to adapt to the new normal and realize what truly matters in life. And what matters is people, you and those you love. Now I live in a city that once felt foreign, but has become dear to me. I work, study, help the military, people, cats and dogs in any way I can. And I try to live my best life, smiling yet feeling nostalgic about how good things used to be. But I keep hoping for the best, because as long as hope is alive, things aren't as bad as they seem, That's just my philosophy, and that applies to all aspects of life.
My initial thoughts were that war isn't real, that it can't happen. Possibly it's just a political rumor to make people scared and to make people stress, and that's all. That like a war in 21st century, it can't be real. So as I said, I didn't believe that it could happen, so I didn't prepare myself anyhow. And everyone around me was stressing about it, and I was just a chill girl. I was just absolutely relaxed about it, and I thought that it will never happen and that everyone is stressing with no purpose to it. So on the 24th of February 2022, my mom woke me up and told me that the war has begun. I was absolutely shocked and scared, just as anyone else around us. First things first, we started to pack our clothing. We started packing only the things that were the most needed and the most efficient, or that can be sold for the biggest amount of money in case we will have to evacuate from the town, and in case we'll have to leave this place forever. We were absolutely stressed, as I said, and we had absolutely no clue what is up to come in just a few hours. So there were a lot of rumors and a lot of actual news, and it was very hard to filter through them and to understand what is actually going on and what is happening around us. So we were preparing ourselves for the worst. The most interesting part is that I don't remember at all how I felt exactly on the February 24th. I just remember that very strange mix of anger and misunderstanding and just fear of the closest future. That all just burned into me, and I guess that's the only thing I can remember about my feelings about that day. And of course, my perspective of life changed a lot. I started making plans in a lot of different ways than I used to do before. I actually started to be really interested in the history of my country and how it all led to what we have now, and why we should stand for our country and what we can do to never let it happen again. That's what this day taught me, I guess.
Hello, my name is Oleg. I'm 33 years old. I'm from Ukraine, city Mykolaiv. I think that I've heard first news maybe 2 months before the war started. To tell the truth, I didn't believe that it's possible that war could happen in 2022 because, guys, come on, we have technologies, we have internet, we have everything, and why do we need a war? Every war stops the process of making your country great or something like this, and not even stop, it turns back maybe 5 or 10 years. The second thing why I didn't believe in the war, it's because that time I was working as a digital freelancer, working with worldwide clients or partners or something like this, and I understood that if the war starts, Russian banks could be banned from SWIFT payments and from the payments to any other countries. I thought it was a valuable thing why war would not stop, because as I know, all politicians has their own businesses, usually they're worldwide doing, and usually war, it's all about money. So I hoped that not only one person as Putin is responsible for the war, but I hoped that a lot of deputies will stop him because it's all about economy, it's about money and so on. And as I wasn't thinking that it's possible, on the 22nd of February, I wasn't prepared at all. It was just a usual morning, I think, except only one thing. My friend called me at 5, maybe 5:30 a.m. and told me that the war started. First of all, I thought maybe he's drunk or something like else. I just dropped the phone. But in 5 minutes, he called me one more time, told me that he's in a bomb shelter, that Russia is bombing Ukraine, and that the war started, and I have to do something to make me safe. After this, I think that I've spent maybe 3 hours on just reading news, trying to understand what's the situation, how much safe I am and my family. After this, I realized that I didn't get any answers about my safety. That day, maybe half of the day, I was trying to continue working because just everything that I have. And maybe the last part of the day, me, my colleagues, my concourse, we just made a team and did what we know to do. We just were sending to European, USA, to any other countries' media, like websites or news agencies, that the war started. It's not a war between soldiers and soldiers, that Russia kills civilian people. So we were trying to do our best to let all the world realize what's going on in Ukraine nowadays. If you're talking about my feeling on the day, I was scared, but I think I wasn't scared about bombs or artillery, but I was scared if Mykolaiv would be occupied. Just to give you some info, Kherson on the day was occupied. The next target was one of the main targets was Odessa. But Mykolaiv is located between Kherson and Odessa. From Kherson, it's like 50 kilometers, from Odessa, 100 kilometers. I understood that Mykolaiv is a great target for Russian forces because it opens the way to Odessa. That day, I think I stopped any work, any conversations with my friends from Russia, with my some clients from Russia, because just they didn't do anything. I think even nowadays I don't respect any just Russian guys because they did nothing to stop this war. As I know, yeah, they had some meetings or protests maybe the first week, but they stopped. I realized that the guys who went to the protests were not safe. They could be jailed, but I think if such shit happened in Ukraine, our people will stop this. I think nothing has changed since that day. If I'm not listening to the Russian music at all, I'm not watching any Russian TV shows or something like this. And even nowadays, if I'm met with some Russian guys and I know they're from Russia, I would rather not start dialogue or just stop it as quick as possible and not have conversation or any deals with Russian guys. In conclusion, I would like to say donate to Ukraine soldiers because they are my friends in army, some of my relatives, some of my uncles, and so on. I think nowadays in Ukraine, everyone has maybe 10% of friends that joined the army. And I think that each person in Ukraine has a friend or relative or just maybe mutual friend who died in this war. So glory to Ukraine, donate to Ukrainian guys, they are doing right things. And guys, I hope you'll never met a war in your country.
So I hope you got some insights and you enjoyed them, the most important, and it satisfied you a bit. So it satisfied your curiosity. And I guess we are done with it. And what else do you have to say?
Maybe you, our dear listeners, have also something important to say. I'm sure you do. We would happily read your comments below. What were you doing at the time? Were you preparing for the day? How are you feeling the day? So if you have anything to share, please do. You are welcome to do so.
Right. So goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, goodbye.